the end of the Second World War, the nations of the world gathered together to ensure that such horrifying loss of life would never again be possible. And yet the world has seen over 160 armed conflicts since then. More than 50 wars are going on right now. Every year, war kills or seriously affects the lives of millions of unarmed men, women and children. Today, 90% of war victims are civilians. For them, little or no medical care is available. Emergency Life Support for Civilian War Victims is a non-profit organization founded in 1994 to intervene in this humanitarian crisis. Emergency is independent, neutral and non-political. Its mission is to provide high-quality medical and surgical care free of charge in war-torn areas and to promote a culture of peace, solidarity and respect for human rights. Emergency builds and administers medical and surgical centres worldwide, staffing them with foreign and local personnel trained on site. In war zones, cluster bombs, high-velocity bullets, rockets, shrapnel and anti-personnel mines wound and maim young and old alike every day. Mines lying undisturbed continue to function as weapons for years after conflicts have ended, disabling generation after generation. 1/3 of all war victims are children. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights says that everyone has the right to a standard of living adequate for the health and well-being of himself and of his family, including food, clothing, housing and medical care. Accordingly, Emergency believes that its patients should receive the same high standard of care and rehabilitation that we expect for our relatives and friends. To connect its surgical centres to remote areas, Emergency has also created more than 50 first aid posts. Here, doctors and nurses provide initial emergency care and arrange safe and rapid transportation of patients in need of surgery. Often the only medical facilities available to the local population, these first aid units have evolved into outpatient clinics that provide pediatric, obstetric and gynecological services, as well as primary care. As it has evolved, Emergency over the years has expanded the scope of its mission in other ways. In its rehabilitation and social reintegration centres, amputees receive physical therapy and are fitted with prostheses. Vocational training in carpentry, metal fabrication, tailoring and leatherwork is also available, as well as assistance in starting a small business. Today, Emergency advises 160 cooperatives in Iraq and employs many former patients in its facilities. Integration as active members of their communities and families is essential if disabled victims are to regain full rights and dignity. Every day, Emergency workers learn that the wounded and maimed are not the only victims of armed conflict. Any person who cannot receive adequate care must be considered a victim of war. Therefore, today, Emergency also operates maternity centres and paediatric units. The creation of the Salam Regional Centre for Cardiac Surgery in Khartoum, Sudan, is one of Emergency's latest projects. With satellite centres in 9 neighbouring countries, the Salam Centre aims to expand the right to medical care while promoting cooperation across an area almost as large as Europe. Since 1994, Emergency has treated more than 2 million patients. Today it manages medical and surgical centres and public health programmes in 8 countries: Iraq, Cambodia, Afghanistan, Sierra Leone, Sudan, Sri Lanka, and Nicaragua. Emergency has also realised and handed to local health authorities humanitarian programmes in Angola, Rwanda, Eritrea, Algeria and Palestine. From raising funds to creating awareness, from collecting medical equipment to recruiting and training medical personnel, Emergency depends on thousands of volunteers. In Italy, where it was founded, and since 2005, now also in the United States. Relying almost entirely on individual donations and institutional grants, Emergency has managed a total budget of almost $90 million in a little over a decade. In line with its mission, only a small fraction of its resources are used for overhead. 94% of Emergency's income goes directly to help civilian war victims. Promoting equal dignity and rights for all human beings is the only true preventative medicine for war. Help emergency, life support for civilian war victims.